Hare Krishna. Today, with the blessings of the senior acharyas and Guru Maharaj, I would talk about the verse Canto 3, Chapter 2, verse 3. So I seek the blessings of the senior devotees. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this is verse 3. Sa katham sevaya tasya kalena jarsam gata prishto varatam prati brihad bhartu padva anusamaran. Sa katham sevaya tasya kalena jarsam gata prishto varatam prati brihad bhartu padva anusamaran. Sa katham sevaya tasya kalena jarsam gata prishto vartam prati brihad bhartu padav anusamaran. I would read the word-to-word meaning. Sa, Uddhava, katham, how, sevaya, by such service, tasya, his, kalena, in course of time, jarsam, invalidity, gata, undergone, prishta, asked for, vartam, message, prati brihad, just to reply, bhartu, of the Lord, padav, his lotus feet, anusmaran, remembering. Translation. Uddhava thus served the Lord continually from childhood, and in his old age that attitude of service never slackened. As soon as he was asked about the message of the Lord, he at once remembered all about him. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Transcendental service to the Lord is not mundane. The service attitude of the devotee gradually increases and never becomes slackened. Generally, in old age, a person is allowed retirement from mundane service, but in the transcendental service of the Lord, there is no retirement at all. On the contrary, the service attitude increases more and more with the progress of age. In the transcendental service, there is no satiation, and therefore there is no retirement. Materially, when a man becomes tired by rendering service in his physical body, he is allowed retirement. But in the transcendental service, there is no feeling of fatigue because it is spiritual service and is not on the bodily plane. Service on the bodily plane dwindles as the body grows older, but the spirit is never old, and therefore on the spiritual plane, the service is never tiresome. Uddhava undoubtedly became old, but that does not mean that his spirit became old. His service attitude matured on the transcendental plane, and therefore, as soon as he was questioned by Vidura about Lord Krishna, he at once remembered his Lord by referring to the context and forgot himself on the physical plane. That is a sign of pure devotional service to the Lord, as will be explained later in Lakshman Bhakti Yogasya in Lord Kapila's instructions to his mother Devahuti. So I will invoke some prayers. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnana Janaya Shalakya Sakshur Alimintam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Soyam Upakata Mayam Tatatki Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamlam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Rugnatvitam Tam Sajivam Savdetam Savdutam Prijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Vishakam Vitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dino Bandho Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrinda Vireshwari Vishwabhanu Sute Devi Pranamani Hari Priye Panchakalpatrusya cha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanbhyo vaishnavabhyo namo namah. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Shri Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So today I'll talk about and invite discussions as well. So there are very beautiful points made here. One of the numero uno purports by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, that in devotional service we do not retire. In devotional service, enthusiasm doesn't go away. And one of the things I saw this week by my Guru Maharaj is that whenever we go to the temple, whenever we see a devotee, whenever we see a deity, we should see it as if we are seeing it for the first time. And so if we remember first time when we meet somebody, how our enthusiasm is. And so with those eyes, we can, with that consciousness and with those eyes, we can enter and see. And it's never satiated. So unlike satiated refers to in the material world, eating the food, or in spiritually in honoring the prasadam. So after that, we get satiated. And then the other part is that soul does not get old while the body does. So when we can look at our own devotional life, we can see how much we not only evolve, but doing the same thing over and over again does not make us tired. Hearing the same devotional music over and over again does not make us tired. So the Uddhava had a great determination from the childhood, and he had a great sincerity from the childhood. And he lived to glorify Krishna. And so similarly, we can continue to seek determination and sincerity by glorifying our acharyas in the parampara. So we can see in the material world, how the boredom sets in. We can see a child who plays with the toy. After a few days, they get bored and it gets retired. It gets retired that perhaps never to be used again, and then probably it's donated. The books we read in schools and colleges, and whether they were books on art or books on numbers or mathematics or engineering or management, those books we read and then we retire. Then we go to the workplace. We start with the lower skilled work, relatively speaking, and then we retire that. Then we go to higher skilled work, and then we retire that too also, and ultimately we get bored and we take the retirement from that. We can see that people who hear material songs as well, they get bored and retired. So there is a boredom and retirement aspect to the material things that come in our life. But spiritually, that's not the case. We can see live in front of our own eyes, whether it is starting with the very mundane activity, the cleaning team. Every Sunday, the cleaning team is enthusiastically cleaning in the temple. And even though it may look very lower skilled activity and it is repetitive, but all the devotees come and they clean very enthusiastically. And even after cleaning, there is no question of boredom or fatigue, because our senses were used spiritually. And in fact, we go home more satisfied that actually that something spiritually was contributed with our material bodies. Same thing with the serving team, DT services team. There are so many the kirtanayas who do sing kirtan. They're doing kirtan every Sunday program, other programs. There is no question of boredom or retirement. And then there is the aspect of futility in the material world as well. And we can see that not only these things become boring after a while, so we have to retire from them, but they are also temporary. They come and they go. They're always changing. And so whatever it may be, the toy loses its the toy over time loses its functionality. It gets broken. And similarly, there are many other material things we can relate with. They are just fleeting. They come and then they go. And so there is a futility part of it. So when we reflect back, then we can see that, okay, those things were there to teach us, but now of certain things. And now that we have learned, then we can move forward. So by using those things, they weren't the purpose of life. We can see as we grow wiser and materially older, that that wasn't the purpose of life. That was just there to a temporary use and teach us something, and then we just move forward. So that's just there is a futility aspect to it. And then there is a time aspect to it in the activities we do. So as we continue to grow in our spiritual life, or even continue to ramp down our material life, so we can see that with the time, over the passage of time, the quality and the quantity of time that we spend with others changes. So when we are young, we can see we spend a huge quantity and quality of time with our parents. And then we become adults, then we start to spend a huge quality and quantity of time with our friends. And then once if we go into the Grihastha life, then we start to spend a lot of time initially with our spouse. And then if we have children, then we start to spend a lot of time with our children. And then when the children grow older and then they move out, then we start to have fewer friends and fewer friends, and mostly with deeper relationships. And then at the crest of all, this is at the top is Krishna sitting, which is our most dear, most reliable, most trustworthy, dearest friend and the deepest friend. So as we can see, the quality and quantity of time, how it changes over time. And so ultimately what we are left with after all is said and done is only our one friend, which is the nearest and the deepest friend, who's got the best interest at heart for us. And he is always looking out what we need all the time and supply us what we really need, not what we want, And so when he takes away something, then that means that's no longer needed. But that's our nearest and dearest friend. So we can see over time how the time we spend with others, the quantity and quality of time changes. And then there is a satiation part of it that Srila Prabhupada aspect to it that Srila Prabhupada talks about. So as we can see, I know, humbly speaking, devotees like to say, or actually genuinely believe, that they are not real devotees. And the other day I saw Maharaj, Ramapada Maharaj, commenting on that look, we know that you're devotees, because how do you feel when you can you stay away without chanting in a day? How does it feel? How does that day feel? So So the point is, as we chant, we are not satiated, of course, but then we like to chant more. As we do devotional service, we are not satiated because then we do that more. As we do Vaishnava care and spend quality time with Vaishnavas, we are not satiated, and then we want to do more of that. And then the fifth aspect in this purport that I reflected on was one of remembrance, and Uddhava, as being one of the great devotees, how his moment spent with the Lord Krishna turned into very sweet and impeccable memories in his mind. So whenever Vidura would ask that question, or even in childhood when his mother used to ask for breakfast, he would not take his mind off, and he would just refuse to do anything else. And so when Vidura asked him that question, he was in complete ecstasy, and those moments, sweet moments, imprinted in his mind as memories. Those were very cherishable. That was a great treasure he had, and he would actually reflect with the high intensity focus on those memories and just get mad in love with Krishna. So the point is that whether, because in our lives as well, these moments will become memories. And so one big takeaway is that we cherish every moment, stay in the present, whenever we are with our near and dear ones, as well as in our devotional service when we are chanting. Having a single dimensional focus and 100% attention in the moment with whoever we are, whether we are with the devotees or even in material life, and whether ultimately we are with Krishna in our chanting time. A single dimensional focus is what Krishna has always recommended, and not having our intelligence in multi-branched. And because eventually, even when we are doing service and when cooking, it is always recommended that we are talking and thinking about Krishna. So our intelligence is singly focused. And whenever even whenever we are cleaning, whenever we are doing deity service, we have our or whenever we are doing kirtan, it's all single focus, because these moments are going to turn into memories, and more singular focused those moments were, more deeper and more treasurable those memories will be. And if our moments are more multi-focused, then those memories will not be as cherishable. So those are the 5 aspects I took from this today, which is one is, I'll just repeat, there is a boredom and there is a boredom and retirement aspect to the material activities, which is not the case in spiritual. There is a temporary aspect. The second one is a futility of it, the temporary aspect, and we can see all the things we used and retired, and they were all temporary, and they were there for a purpose, and then we just can't hang on to them. But we can always hang on to our devotional service. There is a time aspect to it. The quality and quantity of time we spend with others changes over time. And we can see that ultimately at the end of our life, it's going to be our mind and Krishna. It's going to be just one-to-one. There is not going to be anything else. The highest test, or the quality, the exam of life. Then the fourth aspect is the satiation part of it, and how we can, there is a limited amount of calories and food we can honor, or prasadam we can honor in our life, and ultimately at the end of it, we are going to be fully satiated and not be able to honor it at one point in time. But this spiritual activities, there is no satiation, and actually doing them causes more propensity, more desire to do. So it itself feeds itself. And then the fifth part was the remembrance part of it, and how singularly focused we are in the moment. Well, to the extent we are singularly focused in the moment, more treasurable, deeper, and sweet the memory will be when that moment becomes a memory. And at the end of it, a lot of memories will be left, and but more focused we can be, deeper our spiritual and deeper and sweeter our spiritual relationship can be. So those were some of the reflections from my side. If I said something wrong, I do seek forgiveness sincerely, but also like to open it up for any discussions and reflections, corrections anyone has.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yeah, thank you so much, Prabhu, for a short class. So, I mean, the way you summarized as well, I was just trying to put those things together, what you said, but yeah, at the end you did. So I was just thinking about that last point, Prabhu. I mean, when we do the devotional activities, right? So, I mean, the impressions may be there, but if we are not, I mean, I think actually, generally my thought, Prabhu, I mean, the way we fill in our mind with the devotional service or devotional, I mean, I'm just talking about distinguishing between these two, I mean, the activities, right? The external activities. So even, I think you mentioned it about the singular focus. That is what actually I was just thinking a little bit more. So, I mean, the way more we do put our heart there and trying to do those activities, and these impressions will form within our heart or mind, right? So they will help us to take out the unwanted things, and they will, I mean, even if you, I mean, in this case of Uddhava, so he was able to remember the everything, right? So what his relations, or what he did with the Lord. Even in our case, I mean, some of the activities which we are appreciate so much are the way we did our I mean, those incidents within our life, right? We remember because we like them more, right? Or the way we did those activities. So I mean, if we can uh, cherish those moments, or I mean, do those activities with the singular focus, I mean, of course we have the philosophical knowledge now, right? So but if we can use those things, and they will help us to remember, right, when it's really needed. So I was just thinking, Prabhu, I mean, I think the point that I took is the singular focus, whatever we do, I mean, so that they will help us to form those impressions within our hearts very strong way. So thank you, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah. So it is like thank you for your thoughts. It's like the watering the seed. And so in the garden, we can have seeds and weeds, but with singular focus, if we are only watering the devotional seeds, and the weeds would automatically not get water. So they will, that's the point you made, that, as we are singularly focused in devotional life, it can actually eradicate the unwanted things as well. The weeds can get unwanted. So that focus is in our control. And that is what we all work towards, or I work towards, increasing that focus. So that way we can water what really matters, and not water that is unwanted. Yes, Prabhuji, thank you for sharing that.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances, all close to Srila Prabhupada, Sri Guru and Gauranga. Very nice class, Prabhu. I mean, I really like the way you analyze the 4 or 5 aspects of it, what is between the comparison between the mundane and the spiritual, and how the spiritual is always refreshing and more and more attractive when we do. And what came to my mind is that Guru Maharaj, Ramdas Swami Maharaj, I have been I have seen him for past 25 years at least. So how his focus and how he's it's so inspiring, more and more delicious. And when he speaks, it becomes. And the number of disciples, the family has grown, but he's so happy to focus on the very simple things of devotional activities with the same freshness as, and to the very beginner. And also talking about the very advanced topics in the same way, not neglecting any aspect, and he always more and more enthused. So it's such an example before our eyes when we see that, and it's so pure. Like, thank you very much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Sandhya Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. This is all Guru Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for sharing the living example of Ramapala Maharaj. Yeah, absolutely. His smile is always fresh, as if we are, like you said, and smiling for the first time and meeting somebody for the first time. That's kind of the freshness in Maharaj's grace and smile. And also with that intensity of focus, Maharaj has been able to unpack so many of the pastimes in Srimad Bhagavatam. And sometimes when I hear Maharaj, it's just he's taking us to, with his Vani, is actually takes us to the spiritual world, how it is like. And I saw some of the lectures, advertisement. Okay, if we talk about spiritual world, let me try to do some, Maharaj was trying to do some advertisement, how it is like and how it feels and how the pastimes are. And the way he describes it and takes us all there is just amazing, Mataji. Thank you for glorifying Maharaj. And
thank you, Prabhu. I'd like to extend that. I mean, Srila Prabhupada's disciples are all like that. I mean, look at Radha Swami Maharaj and Jayapataga Swami Maharaj and Bhakti Tirtha Swami. I mean, Chandramauli Swami. When we think of Srila Prabhupada's disciples, and we don't have time enough to to pay attention or listen here more and more. It's so amazing, Srila Prabhupada's disciples. I mean, how they have the Chaitanya tree, how it has taken root all over the world, and it's amazing. How the mercy comes down. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Sure. So if nothing else, we can close the class. Thank you for participating. Thank you for sharing your thoughts as well. Panchakalpaprasya kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanbhyo vaishnavyo namo namah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.